The Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer a digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. Learn more at greenandwoodmedia.com.
Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Black excellence, black beauty, and black pride. Black power from all diasporas coincide. Progressive truth and regression eventually collide. May the beauty of the people no longer be set aside. May the black queen's grace continually mesmerize the millions who couldn't see it when looking into her eyes. And the black man's plight no longer be the disguise. Oppression, emasculation, they wanna castricize him. Take him away from the black queen, put him inside prison for slave labor, he institutionalized. Wondering on the outside, is she willing to ride? Is she willing to ride? Is she willing to fight for the love, even despite the fact that he doing time? Love that conquers all will never fade with time. If she don't choose the love that appreciates every life, his flame might get dim and he may eventually.
Welcome to the Urban Impact Show. I am your host, Dewana Bradley. I missed you all last week. I'm so glad to be back in the place. And we are continuing with our conversations, Voting While Black. We'll continue to have conversations today with our candidates that you need to know so that you can make the best informed decision when it comes to voting day on November 2nd. I'm going to pass it over to my co-hosts to introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. I also missed you last week. I missed you guys last week.
Yeah.
So, I know. They missed me so much.
We haven't all recorded together since the Sister Soul Fest.
That's true. That's true. So I really did miss you. And what a great show to come back together on.
Yes.
There are people behind the camera right now just making faces. So ignore that. This is the perfect show to come back together on. I am co-host Luana Nelson Brown, and I am extremely excited today to be talking about what our vote means.
Yes.
And voting coming, 1 week? We've got 10 days,
week and a half, yep.
8 days away. So very important information that we're giving here today. We've got candidates that are joining us, and I can't wait to get the show started.
I'm one of the co-hosts, Brittany Dudley. I'm excited to continue the conversation on Voting While Black. We had a good conversation last week, interviewed a few candidates, so really excited for the candidates that we have here today to ask some questions, kind of hear their background and, what their passion is while running. So, yeah, I'm excited.
All right, great. We are going to take a short break and we will be back with our first candidate, Urban Impact Show. Welcome back to the Urban Impact Show, where we have our first guest with us. We have Lauren Campbell, who is running for Windsor Heights City Council. And no, Windsor Heights is known for more than just giving us those speed tickets. I've gotten my fair share of those, but Windsor Heights is so much more than that. So she's going to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about who she is so you can get a little chance to know her.
Thanks so much. And my name is Lauren Campbell, and I am a wife and mother and small business owner, as well as full-time employee living in Windsor Heights. And I am excited to be running for City Council in Windsor Heights because I want Windsor Heights to continue to grow as a place where people want to live, work, and play. I want us to keep growing. Even though we're a tiny landlocked town, we grew 8% over the last census. And what that data tells us is that there's more young families moving in to homes that were maybe empty nesters before, and we need a community that continues to serve the residents, attracts people. Even if you don't live in Windsor Heights, maybe you come to our music in the park, our free events down at the park, movies in the park, and other events that make everyone feel welcome.
So what are some of your key priorities while going on the council?
Absolutely. So I want us to focus on growing our business base. We have a high property tax, and whether you're a homeowner or a renter, that property tax is going to hit your wallet, right? When the property tax bill goes up, your landlord raises your rent anyway. So it's something that impacts all of us. And the way that we can offset that is by attracting more businesses, because that sales, local option sales tax helps offset that property tax. And so while we no longer have this speed camera money, and our speed limit is now 30 miles an hour on University, if you hadn't heard, over a year now. The way that our city can attract more businesses. And as a small business owner, I have a small studio on University, and I love to joke that there's no reason a business my size should be able to afford 1,000 square feet in our town. But for a long time, it wasn't a desirable place to have a business because of the city's reputation. And there's the silver lining in that is there's a lot of really unique businesses in Windsor Heights. We've got a Puerto Rican restaurant. We've got several import grocery stores. And attracting more businesses and attracting more people into Windsor Heights, I think is important. I don't want us just to be the place that you cut through on your way to Walmart or Hy-Vee, right? So I look forward to growing that. I want to grow more community activities. Cities like Des Moines and West Des Moines have a Parks and Rec department. We have one person. And so if things get done in our city, it's a lot of times because of volunteers. And so, Mike volunteer, I know he's coming up here in a little bit. Mike volunteers at events. I love to roll up my sleeves and chip in to help make things happen. And that's what it takes for us to have those fun events and for us to be that city where people want to come. So, giving back into the community, volunteering to make those events happen, help grow those events, and also growing our tax base so that us as residents are having lower property taxes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one question that I have for you. Talk about the what inspired you to run. And campaigns are not easy. They're not always the funnest to do, but there's something inside of you that said that this was something you wanted to do. So just share with our viewers, what was the inspiration beside running?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you. So in 2018, our city canceled the 4th of July parade without much notice or fanfare. The current mayor had kind of canceled all special events. And I found out about it through the grapevine, which is not the way you want to find out about any change happening in your city.
Right.
So being stubborn as I am, I went to the city council and I said, well, if I plan it, can we still have a 4th of July parade? Because to me, a 4th of July parade is like the last hallmark of a small town, right? So I started so in 6 weeks, I planned the 4th of July parade. We had a fantastic turnout for the parade. I'd never planned a parade before. I was 7 months pregnant on the 4th of July, and we had a fantastic event. And I was kind of hooked at that point on some bigger scale events. But I started going to city council meetings, and listening to the concerns from residents and how sometimes those concerns were responded to really left me disappointed. And if it wasn't for the parade, I don't know that if I would have tuned in for those city council meetings or if I would have gone to any of those meetings. And so when a resident is being over-talked, is being told, I didn't just say that, when we all just heard you say that, was really infuriating to me. And I also realized for a long time, I had in my head this thought that the people that run for public office, have some superpower, super knowledge. They all have to have a law degree or something. And I realized that the 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 elected officials that I really look up to are the people who show up for their community, the people who care, and the people who, they might not have the answers, but they want to find the answer for you. And I thought, I can do those things. I can show up, I do care, and I'm happy to do the legwork to get the answers when we need to. Thank you.
How can our viewers find you? Where can they look like your
Absolutely.
Facebook,
Yep. So on Facebook, campbellforcouncil.com, or so my website's campbellforcouncil.com. Facebook is the same. And campbellforcouncil at gmail.com for my email.
One more thing, we got about 1 more minute. If you just want to talk to viewers about why they should vote for you. I know voting's coming up here in 8 days, and I'm sure you want their vote. For just give some lasting words about why they should vote for you.
You know, if it's okay, I'd like to modify that opportunity just for a second, because I think what's most important is that whether you live in Windsor Heights or you live in a different community, it's just important that you get out and vote. Even if you're not going to vote for me, our voting rights have been under attack for the last couple of years. Poll hours are limited. Absentee ballot windows are limited. Who can return your absentee ballot is limited. And it is more important than ever that we get out to the polls, that we show up and cast a vote. So even if you're not voting for me, even if you're not in Windsor Heights, please show up on Election Day. If you need recommendations on who to vote for, there's plenty of organizations that if you align with that will have some recommendations for you, but we have to get up and show up and vote.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. And you all heard it from Lauren. Make sure you show up and vote. Rather you're voting for her or whomever, make sure you show up and vote. That's something that's very important here at the Urban Impact Show. We are going to take a break and we will be back with our next guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome back to the Urban Impact Show. I'm Luana Nelson Brown, your co-host. No, I'm not Dewana or Brittany. We're 3 new people sitting here in front of you. Do not adjust your television sets or your computers. And so with me today is Rob and our next candidate.
Yeah, thank you, Luana. So check this out, everybody. We are talking about voting while Black on this show. As you all know, for the past few weeks, the Urban Impact Show has tackled this thing called voting. Voting is very, very, very important, and I know that sounds very cliche-ish and mundane, but the fact of the matter still resides that if you want streets fixed in your neighborhood, if you want a grocery store, even if you want new materials imported into your neighborhood through a grocery store, all of that stuff is decided by a policy. We were just reading an article about how school board and city council elections are some of the worst that they've ever been.
Absolutely.
Right now, because there's so much happening in our country. And so we're excited to have our next guest who is running for city council. We're going to hand him the mic and allow him a chance to introduce himself.
Both of them? Oh, gosh. Well, thank you. And thank you to the Urban Impact Show for hosting this. And Laura mentioned it at the end of hers, but it's absolutely critical that we all get out there and vote and have our voice heard. I know sometimes it is because, you're being asked to engage with institutions that fundamentally, may not have the trust of certain populations. And I know that makes it harder to understand how your vote could actually have an impact, but it does. And I've struggled with that in my lifetime too. And so I come to you with that perspective of somebody who has, struggled with understanding how my vote counts, how my vote has an impact on the world around me, and how it's going to actually help me put food on the table or put a house over my head or educate my children. But I can tell you now more than ever, it's critical, as was said. And my name is Corey McAnally. Sorry, I jumped right into it. I'm running for Des Moines City Council in Ward 3. And my wife and I live in the Drake neighborhood, just south of Drake University at 27th and Kingman. We got 2 dogs. We don't have any kids, but the dogs are a lot. A little bit of my story, just real quick. I was born to 17-year-old parents in Davenport, Iowa. And my parents didn't quite know how they were going to put food on the table or a roof over their head. So my dad joined the Marines. And then went through a lot in my childhood, back and forth, mom and dad, different step parents, and finally ended up with my grandma in Davenport, Iowa. But it was, I started getting opportunities. People started mentoring me and guiding me and realizing that this kid who, might not have had a good trajectory in his life had some potential. And people started giving me opportunities, and, whether it was a guide, mentor, encouraging me to go to college, which I ultimately did, University of Iowa, biochemistry, encouraging me to go to law school, and I didn't think I had the pedigree or the background. We need those people in our lives. And when I got out of law school and I got that first request from Drake to give him $1,000, I thought, add it to my tab. You want put it on the other with the other $100,000 that I owe you. But the reality is that I realized nobody who'd helped me in my life wrote a check. Right? They'd give me an opportunity. They'd reached out. They'd help me. They'd help me improve my station. They believed in me. They showed me a path. And that's when I realized that's what it took. That's what it takes to help people. And I started doing that, engaged Des Moines Public Library Foundation, which we all know the library is a critical service in our community. YMCA Supportive Housing Campus, because too often we focus on the symptom and not the problem. And I want to talk about that because there's a lot of that too, I think, that we can dig into, where our city council is focusing on symptoms and not underlying problems, and really getting in and listening to what the communities who are in need and solving those needs. And so when I looked at our city council, I thought they needed somebody who had that type of experience, that type of understanding of, some struggles. My struggles have not been what everybody else is, but I've been through some struggles. And with that, I have privilege, right? And I want to bring that privilege to bear to do and good and serve my fellow human beings. And so that's why I'm running for city council. I know you've got some great questions, so I don't want to take up all the time introducing myself.
No, we want you to get that introduction in so people know who you are. I do, as I listen to you talk, great story. I love to hear it. But I am curious, with someone with privilege, who had mentors, who had people to give opportunities, which is really the epitome of privilege. Yep. How can you represent a ward of people, a city of people, where many don't have that, many don't have opportunities, many don't have that same privilege? What does that look like exactly?
Listening and then taking action, right? You, as a city council member, as anybody, we can't. Our story doesn't represent everybody, right? And you've got to get out there and you've got to get into those individual communities and hear and listen and then take action. You can't, when we talk about, well, how do we solve the problem with XYZ community? All of a sudden we're quick to this answer, right? Here's our answer. Here's our solution. But the reality is the best thing to do first is to flip the question, to flip the script and say, what does that community want? What does that community need? I know sometimes, and that helps us really make sure that we are understanding the full scope of issues. And just a simple one that I did a ride along with Sergeant Demario Dara last night. And he and I were talking about improving our neighborhoods, which is a big plan of mine, right? But then he highlighted this issue, which is, when we improve neighborhoods, property values go up and that pushes people out, right? So you got to think about how that ecosystem works, because it's great to improve a neighborhood where, people are ready to absorb that or they have the means to absorb that. But when we're talking about all the neighborhoods in Des Moines, how is that, we just go into a neighborhood, build business, increases property value, and then people get pushed out. And we don't think about that, right? Because we're not having those conversations with the community. So to answer your question, it's about listening and and responding to the needs of that community. And it's hard. 'Cause we've got a lot of really great, really different communities in Des Moines, which make it great. They all have individual needs, but that's where we have to start and finish with those.
Yeah. Did you want?
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Let me let's go here. You know, there has been a lot going on in this city, right? 2020 gave us a year to remember, right? And there was a lot that happened between city council and black activists in this, you know, in this city, right? And so when you look at stuff like that, city council has still yet to come through on some of the things that were asked for, right?
Yep.
So you still have these protests that are happening. You still have all of these things that are going on. When a major sector of our youth feel ignored, they don't feel represented on this council. And so my question is not as a candidate, Corey, but if you are hired technically by the people, by them voting, how will you govern? Because you become one vote against six.
Yeah.
And then if you vote in a way that they don't want to vote for, it'll be hard to get other things that you need them to go along with, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that strikes the fundamental core of leadership, right? 1 versus 6. We need to be working hard to find solutions and build coalitions, right? You know, you talk about how the young communities have been impacted over the last year, and I hear, you know, you asked, how do I govern? The reality is when you get elected, the easy work are the people who elected you, who believe that things are going. I posted this the other day. When you get elected, you're not working for the people who think that the city is going well. Like you have a job to keep it affordable, safe, and clean for the people who think things are going well. Your work is for the people who don't, for the people who raise issues, who raise concerns, who say, hey, this home that is home to all of us isn't working for all of us. That's where your work is, right, as a city council member. And so, you know, to get out there and hear where those biggest concerns are, that's where the hardest work is, and take that back.
But how will you do that is my question, because it's one thing to say, hey, I'm gonna listen.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing to say that, you know, I will get out there and do the work. But my question is, so if you win, do you keep door knocking? If you win, do you host town hall meetings to get feedback? How will you do it? Is more so what I'm trying to get.
Yeah. If I win or if I lose. You know, this commitment is not about the seat, right? The seat is a way to do good in your community, but my commitment is to this community. And so it's obviously have more power if you win. But yes, getting out there, and I hate the concept of bring you to my table. I got to sit at your table, and I got to bring other council members to your table. And there are lots of different tables we have to sit at in Des Moines, but you're right. We need continue door knocking, continue to get people engaged. You know, I door knock every door, not just the lists that are out there.
Yeah,
I know you know there are lists that are out there, the
yes.
Democrat list, the Republican list. I door knock every door. I'm not going to hit every door in Des Moines, I can tell you that. But when I go down a street, I knock every door, right? Because if we don't continue to push people and engage them, even if they're going to slam the door and say no thanks, how are we going to get them to get engaged with our government, right? We're just going to get that less than 20% of people in Des Moines vote, right? Or in Ward 3, I suppose, right? How are we going to get people to vote? We just say get out there and vote, right? So yes, you got to continue to do it. It's not a 6-month job when right before you're elected, right when campaign season. It is a 4-year term, and you've got to get out there. You've got to do it. You got to host. Come to my house. Let's break bread. I mean, I have. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say this really quick, and then I'm gonna pass it to Luana for our final question because I know we're coming to a close on time. You're running against an incumbent, right? You're running against a well-liked incumbent, right? And so someone who has had, they would say, the backs of those community members who were fighting to be heard. And so people would ask, why choose you over someone who they believe has fought for them before?
Yeah, I don't hear that from everybody. I don't hear that, and I have to listen. So if you're telling me that that's, a position of I don't hear that from everybody that incumbent has been fighting for them. And as a matter of fact, I haven't seen results. And I don't know if the community who says that he's been fighting for them has seen results, but that's the bridge, right? We got to get results. And right now, sometimes I see what I think is I see lip service. This goes back to symptoms versus core problems. You know, we've got to tackle the core problems and not just the symptoms. And I see a lot of work being done, but it's not attacking the cycles and the institutions that actually fundamentally make meaningful change. And that's going to be hard because fundamental change when it comes to social inequities has got to be a movement of the people, of the neighbors, of the businesses. It has to transcend the seat. It cannot be dependent on the person. The person brings people together. The person makes a movement that's so strong that it is an immovable force that no matter who sits in this seat, the movement continues, right? Because everybody believes in it. And right now, my biggest concern is that the way things are being done without building coalitions, with just one person being there, being that, champion for some people in some people's eyes, isn't going to be enough. And it's too much contingent on that person. And I'm going to be the person who helps build that immovable force with the people of Des Moines.
So we only have a little bit of time left, right?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. Well, thank you for your perspective. I do have a really, really quick question. Some of those coalitions that you're talking about building and getting to the root causes are going to butt up against some of those established institutions. What does that look like for you in about 10 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, the city has to work for everybody. And if it's not working for everybody, it's not working right. So fundamental changes to institutions that aren't working right have to take place, whether that's the way we look at law enforcement and expand that, relationship with the community, build that trust, build that accountability. We have to do it. Whether it's getting people of minority groups into positions where they can lead, where they can be on boards, where they can be in government, where they feel like they have the financial ability and the access to get engaged and make meaningful change for themselves. This position is about me helping raise other people up. That is my goal. That's how we fundamentally change those institutions.
That is an excellent answer.
Give us your information. How to get hold of it.
Yeah, CoreyForCouncil.com. Facebook is Corey McAnally for Des Moines. You can reach me at info@CoreyForCouncil.com, and I'll make sure that I share my info with this group so that it's available. So thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be right back with more of the Urban Impact Show.
The Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer a digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. Learn more at greenandwoodmedia.com.
I'm co-host Luana Nelson Brown, and thank you for joining us. We are continuing our discussion on voting while Black, and with us, we've got now back my co-host Brittany, who's going to bring in our next candidate.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We have our next candidate, Mike Jones, who will be running for mayor of Windsor Heights. So, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. So I am finishing up my first term on the Windsor Heights City Council. I ran back in 2017. I ran for a very, very simple reason. The reason was that people weren't being listened to. And I think that residents of Des Moines, as everyone here is, I think people can understand that. So I decided to run for city council. I got elected to city council. We've done a lot in 4 years. You know, the first thing people think about when they hear about Windsor Heights is what everyone here brought up,
The speed.
which was the speed limit and the cameras. So what were my goals? Well, yeah. Okay. And so
Yeah, we all want our tickets thrown out.
what were my goals when I'm on city council? And so I think there's a lot of specifics, but you know, just real generally, make Windsor Heights a more positive place to live. And so there's a lot of things that were accomplished in the 4 years, but I'll say, if there's anything, if I'm running for mayor, this is my last time that I have as a city councilman. If there's anything, any sort of legacy I have, it's that we got that speed limit raised to 30 miles per hour on University, and we got rid of the speed cameras. So I'll always have that. As far as me, so I work for the State Public Defender's Office, so I am a public defender. I live in Windsor Heights, obviously, with my daughter and my wife, Edith. My wife is Sarah, my wife. My daughter is Edith. My wife is Sarah.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, but now I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor because I don't see a lot of leadership from our mayoral position. I think someone just asked, who is the mayor of Windsor Heights?
Yes.
I don't want to hear that, okay? I want people to know who the mayor of Windsor Heights is, not for the benefit of that person, you know, but so that we have someone who is known throughout the Des Moines metro area as being a leader who is being positive, who is out there doing things that our residents can be proud of. So I'm not getting a lot of that right now during the time that I'm on council. So I made the decision to run for mayor.
Excellent. That's a wonderful answer, and I'm sure your wife and daughter will
They'll get things
forgive you
figured
this
out.
one time.
Yes.
Sarah and Edith, it's not our fault, it's Mike's. So first and foremost, thank you for changing that speed limit and getting rid of that speed camera. I actually used to live in Windsor Heights for a number of years, and the only reason I moved is because I needed to be closer to my son's therapy in Johnston. But Windsor Heights was good to me. So I'm happy, but the whole time I was there, I did not know who the mayor was. So that is an excellent point that you bring up, right? About even just knowing who's representing you and how are you going to vote if you don't know who you're voting for. So I appreciate your being here and talking about that today. Other than knowing who your mayor is, what is another extremely important issue? And actually, maybe I should rephrase and say, there's not a whole lot of Black leadership in Windsor Heights. I don't know exactly what your Black population is, but that's the majority of our viewers. So what does that look like? Do you have a plan to increase leadership, increase representation, or is that an important issue, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very important issue. I believe the only Black leader in our community is our city council person, Joseph Jones. We have a number of committees in our community. I think every city government has a number of committees, obviously. And so when we're talking about what happens in Windsor Heights, what are their committees made of? You know, we have some planning and zoning, we have economic development, you know, real basic stuff. For the most part, the mayor has either shuttered most of those committees, or the people who are actually on them are just other city council people or the city staff themselves. So, you know, we're not talking about a great amount of representation, be it even from our citizens, you know, especially any sort of our Black citizens. So when you're talking about Lauren said that our city had grown for the first time in a very long time. We're over 5,000 people since about, I want to say like 2000 or something.
Yay!
So that means a greater number of younger people are moving into our community. Also, and I don't know the specifics because I check the census website, quite frequently, but I just can't get it.
Okay.
People don't know, I can name 10 minority-owned businesses on University alone. I believe only one of them is Black-owned. I believe it's 3C Barbershop.
Right.
There in Apple Valley. But we have a great influx of both minorities and African Americans in our community. And I don't feel, if we're just talking citizen representation at a committee level, we do not do a great job of that at all. And so just getting minorities, Blacks, other people on our committees, that way they can actually represent what Windsor Heights is, because Windsor Heights has been primarily always known as a white community.
Absolutely.
An older, whiter community.
Absolutely.
That is changing. That is not the case anymore, especially there is a great number of Hispanics moving into our community. And I mean, we need to show that we are providing to them as residents, but we also need to represent them and do that by putting them in positions of power, which is either elect them or put them on committees.
Excellent. That's an excellent answer. I really like that. Brittany?
What are some last thoughts you would want to leave with, let our viewers know about you as you're running for mayor, some things to leave them with, just like about you and your passion for Windsor Heights.
So, like I said, the reason why I ran in the beginning was because our government was not listening to the people that we represent. And so I ran, I got elected, and all I have tried to do was represent both the people, but I also want Windsor Heights to not be a punchline. I want Windsor Heights to be a place where people can be proud to be from Windsor Heights and not be from the speed trap.
Right.
So I think that comes through positive leadership. That comes from positive advocacy. It comes from being out there and talking to people, both not only in my community, but other leaders in other communities. So that's why I'm here, I cannot imagine for 1 minute the current mayor sitting down at this table and answering these questions.
Wow.
But I am here because it is important that every community be listened to.
Yeah, we very much appreciate that. And that is extremely important.
Yeah.
Just to say that you're here here talking to the community, who our viewership is, and you showed up is wildly important. So thank you so much for letting us know it's about representation, it's about putting people in power, and it's about not just being the speed trap, but being a meaningful place. Do you want to give out your information before we wrap it up?
Very easy. Mike Jones for Iowa. That's my website. Mike Jones for Iowa on Facebook as well. Yes, who? And if my wife and daughter are watching, I'm sorry. I'll get your names right the next time I have a public speaking event.
Thank you so much,
Mike. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Was there a question? Okay. We'll be right back with the Urban Impact Show, Brittany, Luana, and Mike Jones.
Welcome back to the Urban Impact Show, and we are going to close things up here. Our hosts are going to share their final thoughts.
I'm going to kick it off, of course, because they say I talk the longest. Whatever. I have opinion. You, Rob says that. Specifically, Rob says I talk the longest.
For the record, I am bullied here. Y'all pray for me. Okay?
Tell him to blink twice if he needs help. Anyway, it's been a great show today, y'all. I purposefully came in not knowing a whole lot about our candidates so that I could get a fresh perspective. And I have to say, I'm impressed with, the people that we talked to today. Hopefully our viewers will get across how important these positions are and how important it is to vote. Yes. Whoever your candidate of choice is, the main thing is that you get involved in the issues and you let your voice be heard. And we heard important issues today, ranging from a 4th of July parade, which is important because I lived in Windsor Heights and that parade is like the thing, all the way to representation and challenging institutions like law enforcement. All of those are things that impact us every day. And I really appreciate Corey, Lauren, and Mike for coming on and sharing themselves and giving us a better perspective. Now it's on you all to go to the polls on November 2nd and make your voices heard. That's my final thoughts.
Brittany?
I think that, today, like Luana said, I didn't know a lot about the candidates, but I think one thing that came across everyone was just the passion for their city, and which I think that's big. I think that, with nobody remembering who the mayor is, if Mike is appointed to get that seat, you said a lot of things today. For me, I don't live in Windsor Heights, but it showed just your passion for your city and how important you feel like making some changes beyond the speed cameras would be. So I would like to thank all of you guys for spending time. You didn't have to be here. So it was really big that you guys spent time and came and sit with us and for our viewers to get to know who you are and what you guys are about. So thank you.
Luana, who was the lady that emailed? I'm sorry, not Luana, Dewana. Who was the lady that emailed us that she couldn't make it due to COVID?
That was Shelly Gooser.
So we shout her out.
Yeah, we want to give a shout out to Shelly. She is actually running for District 1 school board for Des Moines Public Schools. She could not be with us last week, and so she had to spend time in quarantine. She is back out there now, but Shelly, we wanted to give you a shout out. She is running for District 1, Des Moines Public Schools. I would just like to give my few final thoughts for today's show. First of all, I want to thank our candidates for showing up. Please remember that Corey, Lauren, and Mike showed up here on the show today. That is very important, that they took the time out of their day to speak to you, our viewers, on what matters, not only what's important to them, but I think showing up shares that you are important to them. They didn't have to do that today. And so here at the Urban Impact Show, we are passionate about voting. We believe here that your vote matters, and we believe that your vote counts. But if you don't vote, don't complain come next year when it comes to the things that you don't like if you didn't show up at the polls. I say that in all seriousness. Do not complain to me if you did not vote. Your vote matters. It's the way for you to show your voice. We are looking forward to an election that is coming in 8 days, and so I'm sure you will see these candidates much more as we get closer to election time. They'll be knocking on your doors, and I just urge you all to listen. And I also urge you to look up the information for yourselves. Please do not rely on uncle, aunt, cousin, whomever to tell you about these individuals. I am encouraging you to look it up and research it for yourself. We're going to continue to talk to candidates next week on the Urban Impact Show, but just remember, your vote matters and your choice matters.
Thank you to our co-hosts, Luana Nelson Brown, Miss Brittany Dudley, and of course, Miss DeWanda Bradley. You are watching the Urban Impact Show. We are exactly what that says, the Urban Impact. We're not here to impress you, but we're here to be impactful. I do want to take a moment of personal privilege and shout out Miss Terry Caldwell Johnson for being an advocate in our community, for taking some heat in our community, and for continuing to show up for our community in spaces that you will not ever even know that she was in.
That's right.
I was in a meeting one time and she showed up and she spoke very eloquently, very concise, and very clear to our United States Senator Joni Ernst, but she was very clear with her on things that needed to happen. But she wasn't just speaking from a personal point of view. She had done the research. I said all of that to say, yes, we ask you to do research. Yes, we ask you to listen. Yes, we ask you to do that. But that's why this show exists, is because these ladies here, they've shown up to ask the questions that you want answers to. I'll close with this. Voting has started now. You can go vote tomorrow all the way until November 2nd at 8 p.m. So we're going to ask you, if you ever went to the Walmart on 73rd Street, then Windsor Heights, whoever is the mayor of Windsor Heights matters to you. Whoever sits in that seat on City Council in Windsor Heights matters to you. If you've ever driven over a pothole on University, I drove over one that was about the size of a 3-bedroom small apartment. Who sits on the Des Moines City Council matters to you. So when people tell you that this stuff doesn't matter and that these people will not affect your life, they absolutely will. Decisions and votes will come down right in their laps that will impact your life, no matter what. So just remember this. We love you. You are valued and you are important. Thanks for watching the Urban Impact Show. We'll see you next week.